Recorded live from the mats of Radical MMA in New York City. The Martial Culture Podcast. Your source for in-depth combat sports and martial arts insights with Coach Rene Dreyfus and Matt Peters. Ring the bell and let's get it on.
I don't know how long to wait until after it rings. Get it on. Did you see Tyson Fury?
I did not.
All right.
But he reclaimed the title, I heard. Deontay Wilder did not come. He came a little short, I guess, right?
All I saw was the gross video of him licking blood off of the other guy.
What? I haven't seen those. My wedding anniversary, as I was just telling you before, so I've been a little bit.
That was on the list of to-dos to watch boxing?
Yeah. 10-year wedding anniversary. Hey, let's go watch Tyson.
Well, your wife is cool. Maybe she would want
cool.
to.
No, she's cool, but, there's times where you cannot do that.
No. Yeah, I didn't watch the fight, but
he licked blood off the other guy.
They were clinching for a little bit, and he was like licking his neck a little. I don't know which one's which. I don't know their names. I don't watch boxing.
Yeah, Deontay Wilder. So Deontay Wilder is the American guy, and Tyson Fury is the British guy. Tyson Fury won, right? Yeah, Tyson Fury won.
So the Fury was licking the other guy.
Oh.
Google it. Spencer knows what I'm talking about.
Was the other guy furious?
So we're back after a couple weeks off. There's been a lot of activity in the UFC and in sports in general.
Yes.
John Jones and still, although highly contested.
Yeah, let's talk about that. It was like crazy. I've been like, not only is, my 10th wedding anniversary this weekend, which I'm super lucky, and I don't know how she puts up with me, but
10 years.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I'm going on 2 and I'm kind of calling it quits. Thinking about it. No. With you, not with my wife. Oh my God!
Please don't abandon me.
Preparing for fights too, so there's a lot of things going on at Radical.
This Thursday, we head up to Massachusetts, and then we'll get it on. And so I've been really focused on my guys and not focused on so much other stuff. But the John Jones versus Dominic Reyes fight was a phenomenal fight. And something we haven't even talked about the Conor McGregor fight too against Donald Cerrone.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that was a while ago too. So, do you want to start with the Cerrone fight, or do you want to start with the?
I don't even remember that fight.
With just shoulder punches. Yeah, he broke his orbital bone. And people.
Did he?
Yeah. So this is what happened for the people who didn't see it. I mean, probably everybody saw it except you, Matt.
I saw it. It was like 6 months ago.
Yeah. No, it was like 2 weeks ago. Anyway, okay. But anyway, so. People were saying, some people said, oh, it's a work, or this, it's not a work. And people also, there was a controversy that there's some ESPN commentator, I forgot, this is like a sports commentator. He's kind of an idiot, but he was like, oh, Donald Cerrone sucks and this and that. And Donald Cerrone does not suck. No.
You can't argue that.
You cannot argue that. This is crazy. And it's so disrespectful and just, but what happens is there's certain elements of matchmaking that matchmakers do. Conor McGregor has been out for a while, and you let him get his hands on an opponent who is an opponent he can handle with a year break. And I didn't know what Conor McGregor show up. You don't know if he's been training for the year. You don't know if he's not. And Conor McGregor, I'm not a fan of his in his ring antics, but we cannot say, you have to be objective. He's one of the best starters in MMA. Like, some fighters start slow, some fighters start fast. And it's not a bad thing. Like John Jones. Later in his career, he's been a little bit of a slow starter, right? Conor McGregor, off the bat, is a very, very, very aggressive starter, which is why I think sometimes he has cardio issues too later in the fight. He comes at you like a freight train. He just does. He's a great starter, fantastic starter, and he is a hurricane right off the bell. I mean, like, boom, Jose Aldo, killed him. Boom. He's so many times where he just set the pace.
Do you think he hates fighting, so he wants to get it over with so he can just spend his money on stupid stuff?
I don't know. I just
want to get out of this cage as fast as I can.
It's just a style, and actually I always strove to be a fast starter because I personally like to show my opponent, hey, this is who you got into the cage with right now. That being said, everybody's different. And Cerrone is a very, very, very slow. He gets better as the fights go on. That's who Donald Cerrone is. He's the guy who's better as the fights go on. And so you're putting a guy who's a fast starter against a slow starter. And also Donald Cerrone's been, he's been in the game a long time, and he's got a lot of damage, and he's, a lot of wear and tear. So he's slow slower than he was slower before. So just came on, clipped him, and then hit him with that shoulder punch, and broke his nose right away, and then just took over the fight. And that happens, I'll say also, I have one loss, and I fought a guy who just came at me, and I made a mistake, and I got hit hard, and I couldn't claw back from that. And that doesn't say I'm a terrible fighter, but you're fighting a guy who got you, and you just couldn't get your defense up. And, someone said to me after that loss, they said, oh, I do not agree with this. I do not agree. It's like, oh, if he beat you that fast, it doesn't prove anything. That is bullshit. You got beat. You got beat. I had a fighter who won a fight in a very, very short time. And then they're like, oh, it was a short fight, so you don't really know. No, it's a short fight. It's the best victory there is. Yeah. So some people say that. But at the same time, it is one of the weapons sometimes is being a fast starter and getting the damage in first. And if the guy cannot claw back from that, man, you lose. And that's a great skill. That's a wonderful thing. And as I said, in my one loss, that's what happened. That was the one fight where I was starting a little slow. I made a problem with the weight cuts. I was a little lethargic, and the guy came at me, and I pawed my jab, which is not a good thing to do, which means you put out your jab and then you put it down instead of bringing it back to your face. And then and I get hit with a hook, and that's all she wrote. And it was just a really bad mistake, and I was lethargic, I was starting slow, and he came at me and just whooped me, and the fight was very, very short. And as I said, I trained one fight at one point, and he came in and he just started super, super strong. And we took out the opponent in, I think it was 14 seconds, something like that. Actually, it was 14 seconds, including like the call in. So the fight was like 7 seconds long, and just came in and threw him his head right to the canvas, and the head exploded. And it's funny, the guy that
his head exploded?
Yeah, the back of his head exploded and started bleeding. The person I lost to very quickly was coaching the person that my student beat.
There you go. So
generational win. Yeah, generational karmic retribution.
My kid's better than your kid.
Yeah, exactly. I lost to you, but my kid is better. No, but so, being able to start fast and set the tone right away has always been
more control.
An advantage. It just is, And you saw that, and that's what happened. And then going back to the Dominic Reyes, John Jones fight, same thing. Dominic Reyes came out strong. He came out strong. And, that whole card, there tremendous, tremendous controversy with judging. I mean, the entire card. There was like 4 fights where
Texas?
Yes, it was in Texas. And, we're still dealing with some states where the commissions are hiring people who are not qualified to judge MMA. They're just not qualified. So there are some egregious judging mistakes on that card. But that has nothing to do with this fight. So let's talk this fight. So
that has nothing to do with this fight, you think?
I mean, because each fight is its own little microcosm, Yeah. Like obviously, I don't know if the judges were the same either. Although I think one judge was the same.
Do you score along when you watch it?
I don't have the button. Like a lot of scores, they keep the button. You click a button every time. You have one on your right, one on your left. That's how one time I was a judge. I mean, a scorecard judge, right? I had one right, my left, one left. And if I thought, you just click because you can't like write paper. But you go bop, 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 and it tallies.
That's cool.
So that was how with the system that I used the one time that I was refereeing or judging a fight, and but I don't do it like, oh, there's here, there's there, because this is the thing. It's like, okay, so Reyes comes out, absolutely came like a hurricane. John Jones was there, but there was a massive disparity.
That's the best. Yeah. John Jones was there.
He was there.
He existed.
He existed. But there was a massive disparity in output and what strikes hit. So there's no way you can say Dominic Reyes lost the first round. No. There's no way. It was all elements of the rules, striking, whatever. Dominic Reyes won that first round. Second round, most people would say that Dominic Reyes took the second round as well. Although some people, have said other, but really that's it. Fourth and fifth, all John Jones. There's no question. The question is the third round. For the fight, people didn't see it. It really turned. So halfway through the third round, you're in that, what we call, approaching those championship rounds. So it's usually a 3-round fight, but now it's 4 and 5. So it's like right at the turn of the third round, John Jones started putting it on. And okay, so the question is, how do you score that third round? So what did you think of? Who did you think won the fight? But before I talk about my opinion,
Biased or unbiased?
Both. Let's say biased. Yeah. And why? Do you tell me what?
It was really hard to pick based on just watching the fight. You know, I have my own internal struggles with the winner. I do think John Jones won the fight. I think his takedowns were kind of like the defining factor.
Exactly.
That it just
totally
did more.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And then, so I am not biased towards John Jones or way. I think he did very poorly in this fight, and I'll talk. about that.
I agree too.
Yeah. And that's not to take away from Reyes, but
Reyes is amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Reyes. He's one of the few fighters that matches John Jones in strength and speed and skill. Mm-hmm. And I mean, in attributes, right? Strength, speed, explosiveness. And in terms of skill, he's one of the few guys who is amazing fighting backwards, going backwards. So he has the reach, he's this, and he can fight going backwards. For the people who don't know, punching and striking going backwards is one of the hardest skills to master. And when you look at a striker that can really effectively counter strike going backwards or offensively strike going backwards, that's something else. Mm-hmm. So, but one of the things that helped him, because there's no question John Jones was chasing Reyes the whole fight. So he was chasing him the whole fight. So there's a very few times where I saw John Jones backing up. It was always Reyes backing up. And maybe Reyes got off first, but John Jones was putting the pressure on, putting the pressure. That's a fact, especially towards the later rounds and the third round and all that. John Jones was putting the pressure on. Now, of course, he got hit back. But, you know, let's look at the rules of the way the UFC works, the unified rules. Okay, so first, what are the criteria to win? Effective strikes, okay? And octagon control. Octagon control and submission attempts or, you know, whatever. But octagon control, that is a criteria. The person who demonstrates more octagon control should be considered advantageous. That's the rules. Those are the rules.
So they're judging that based off of...
Yeah. So the question is,
Jones is pushing forward.
Yeah. The question is, okay, what do you mean by octagon control? Do you mean just stepping forward? That's a point of contention, is just going forward, octagon control. But I'll tell you, hitting a takedown is definitely octagon control. There's no way you can say when you're pushed up against events or you get a takedown that you're in control. No, you're not. You're not in control. And now
I let him take me down.
The question is, okay, so this is the thing, and the scoring system says that takedowns count. But you know, there was a really interesting argument between Dominic Reyes and Joe Rogan, right after the fight, you know, and I'll quote them. And we're talking about exactly what we're talking about right now. So Dominic Reyes comes from a wrestling background. And so his concept, he's a sportsman. So he's like, hey, in wrestling, there's no difference like in judo. Let me explain judo. There's 3 types of throws. There's like a throw where you just kind of fall on your butt. That's they have Japanese words, but let's divide it up into more understandable, like a quarter point. Okay. Then there's a bigger throw where you fall, boom, but you don't fall completely on your back. Maybe you get thrown hard, but you fall more on your side. That's a half point. And then there's the high amplitude kabonk, where the guy picks you up and slams you to the mat. Both shoulders hit the floor. Boom. You know, thermonuclear blast. That's a full point. You win the match. So the throws are judged differently based on the amount of damage or the amount of amplitude, you know, the amount of damage that would have been incurred had you been in a real life altercation, right?
Sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? In wrestling, that's not the case. Like in wrestling, you throw the guy. There's just like, hey, I got thrown. There's no criteria for like, oh, I did more damage. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't know the exact way freestyle and folk style wrestling works. I know it's quite complicated, but there's no concept of, hey, in a real fight, this would have done more damage. That concept does not exist in wrestling, right? So I think we can all agree there. I have to look at the deals because there are different ways that they score points, but there's also turnovers and things like that. But we can all agree that wrestling, they just see it as a sportsman here. You have to put the guy's back, 2 shoulders on the floor. He has to go like this, technical fall or, you know, pinfall and these things. There's no talking about like, oh, this would actually have killed you in a real fight. You know, even in my day, which is, you know, very much divorced from the old day of judo, the idea was, you know, hey, an ippon means on the street, you got your skull smashed in. So you're dead, you know, and the famous, Kimura, you know, fought Ellie Gracie. His coach, he's like, Kimura, won the national championship, placed second in the national championships, but he won every single fight up until his final, by, you know, really, really dominated. And then the final, he got ippon thrown. And this is when he was like a kid, right? When he was 14. So he comes back to his instructor, and the instructor punches him in the face. And he says, so you killed 8 men, but the 9th guy killed you. You're dead. And that's why he vowed never to get ippon thrown again, never to lose. And he never was thrown again, because that would mean he was dead. He said, if I get thrown in ippon, if I get thrown by ippon again, I'm going to commit suicide, because that means I'm dead. Right? That was the mentality that a lot of judo guys grew up in way back when. I don't think it's the exact same now, but that's kind of like the way you think about it. It's like thinking about fighting. Hey, if this were a street fight, I'm dead. So Joe Rogan has a little bit more of that, because he's interested in a martial art way. He's like, well, you know, John Jones in the 3rd round took Dominic Reyes down, but he didn't do any damage. He didn't take him down hard. There was no big amplitude throw, and he didn't do any ground and pound there. He didn't do any submissions. He didn't do anything. So, like, what did he actually achieve? Like, not much. And then Dominic Cruz, who was also calling the fight, was saying, yeah, but he took him down. Hey, that's part of the rules. So there's 2 ways to interpret that. According to the current rules of the UFC, octagon control is a criteria for victory. So I would say, in this case, Dominic Cruz is correct by the nature of the UFC rules. However, Joe Rogan's point, where it's like, hey, well, what did he actually do? He just basically, the guy stumbled a little and then nothing happened. Well, what did he do there? Yeah, in terms of a fight, he didn't really achieve that much, but he was in control. So both arguments can be made. That being said, according to the way we score now, I think that 3rd round should have gone to John Jones, because he was in control. And I also see, this is an unwritten rule, but, you know, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. You know, like that thing, that boxing thing. Like, if you're backing up the whole fight, most people will not give you the round. And I think that's the reason why there was some egregious, you know, there was one guy on the scorecards who gave the 1st round to Reyes and every other round to John Jones. And I guarantee that guy has a boxing background, because it's like, oh, in a championship fight, if you're moving backwards, you don't win the round, because you're not, you beat the champ. To be the champ, you got to beat the champ. It means you got to go after him. But that is not actually in the rules. That is not in the rules, but is an unspoken rule of a lot of judges. But it's not in the rules. So that's why I believe that judging was very good, because there was, I think it's Solis or something. I forgot the guy's name, but he scored the 1st round for Reyes, but every other round for John Jones, because John Jones was pressing forward. But that's stupid, because he's not doing any damage.
He's walking forward.
Yeah, he's just walking forward, right? You know, like
technicality.
Yeah, I'm just walking forward, eating your punch. Well, what if that doesn't, you know? So the question is, how do we define these concepts of octagon control? And just walking forward should not. But if the guy's taking the fight to you, yeah, I mean, I think you should see it in a little bit more positive light. I wouldn't say that judge was like, you know, smoking, you know, heaps of crack, and, you know, but that being said, there's no way you should have scored that. So I do believe John Jones won that fight. I do believe he won the last 2 rounds, and I believe he won the 3rd, and he lost the first 2. Okay. That's how I see that.
Do you want to see him fight again?
Yeah. They have to rematch right away. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. And it was very close. And the thing was, Dominic Reyes is a very new fighter. He's not been around so long. So I think the pressure, he blew his tank, you know, way early. And, you know, this is your first big championship fight. And he's a performer, but still, the first time you have the championship fight, that's a big deal. So
he could have had it.
Oh, he could have had it. Right. And then he started fading. The other thing is a lot of people, give more credence, and this is the Pride rules. This is not the UFC rules, but this is the Pride rules, and I actually like these better. The last 5th round was an ass whooping by John Jones. I mean, let's just call it like it is. I mean, he was in control. Dominic Reyes was done, and if that fight had gone on, what's his name? The Conor McGregor's coach said this. He said if that fight had continued, you know, it would have just been Reyes dying, like, you know, getting tapped out or, you know, like that's just fact. If it had like 2 or 3 more rounds, it could be a knockout or submission. There's no question that Reyes was fucking done. So in Pride, the rules in Pride were the way you finish counts more than the way you started. So like if you finish really, really strong, well, you're winning, you know, it's like, and again, Joe Rogan has said this many times, you know, like if you compare it to a street fight, whatever happens in the street fight in the first minute doesn't matter. It's the last minute that matters, you know? So there has to be some relevance of combat.
Because if it did go one more round or even one more minute.
Maybe one more minute. It could have, but it wasn't, you know, we're dealing with the sports element butting up heads against MMA as a stand-in for real combat skill. Now, of course, it's a stand-in. This is sport. So it's judged round by round, which it shouldn't. And also, you know, Pride had different rounds. It was one 10-minute round, one 15-minute round, and then one 10-minute round. So it's like, there weren't even like 3 5-minute rounds. It was just one long 10-minute round. And that's actually, I fought under those rules a lot too. It was one 10-minute round and then break and one 15-minute round and then break and one 10-minute round.
You get like a half-hour break? I mean,
no. It's just 1 minute break. 2 minute.
10-minute round.
1 minute. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. And then it's that, I love those rules. And I think we should just go back to that but the thing, one of the reasons it's not there is because it definitely helps strikers because if they can't get up by the end of 5 minutes, the round ends and they can kind of stall and restart it in striking. It makes it more action packed and interesting. So that's one of the things they did it so there'd be more striking and it would be more fan friendly rather than like, you know, the early UFCs, which was like nonstop grappling and people like didn't understand what was happening. And it really detracted from the taking casual fans or converting people into fans who didn't understand the sport, you know? And, now that there's more striking, obviously there's more, enjoyment of the sport for people who do not follow MMA religiously. You know, even now, like I remember, there was someone was telling me they went to UFC. It was one of the, I think, Barclays Center, and they sat people and they went into the ground and there was like, you know, 100 people yelling, "Get up, stop punching me, like, punch him in like a man," you know, like this stupid stuff, right? But the round break rule was to ensure that there would be more striking. I prefer that there's the less referee intervention, the best. So, you know, I think it should be just 1 25-minute round. Let's see what happens. But that just wouldn't play. But that's what it used to be. Remember? I remember way back when Royce Gracie versus Dan Severn, they fought for 22 minutes until Royce Gracie choked him out with the triangle choke. That was UFC 3 or 4? 4.
You gotta start your own promotion to make that happen. UFC's never gonna
never
allow that.
No, but you know, they still have that in Rio. They have the Rio Heroes. I don't know if they're still going on, but they had Rio Heroes, which like 2 men enter the octagon. I'll see you in 25 minutes. That's it. Just did 25 minutes. Lock the door. Let's go. Like there's no intervention whatsoever, you know, like unless obviously, you know, someone taps or someone's unconscious, right? But it's like, there's no stoppage. Cool. There's no, you know, that's it. And then it's bare knuckle.
Said for that.
Yeah, no, that's pure. But you know that those days will never happen because we have to understand that MMA is a spectator sport. There has to be some sport element. But old school guys like Joe Rogan, myself, who came up in the ranks when it was the old UFC, where you know basically the original UFCs was no time limit, just 2 men enter, 1 man leave. You know, old Thunderdome, you know, Mad Max thing, and I love that. But that's not what we're doing here. So we're butting up against these like. How do we make a linkage to this larger martial art understanding of, you know, like who wins this fight? Or are we just going to, you know, okay, I treat every round, and you know, there are a lot of fighters like this. You know, he did this, Tyron Woodley did this. He would treat every round like a mini fight and he just make sure he win each round. And then if it was a title fight, if he won 3, then he would just like, okay, I won 3 rounds. You know, I'll just take it easy and not get hurt. And, you know, Tyron Woodley was a point scoring sportsman, but he won and he was a title holder for a long time. And that's legitimate because, hey, if you see the strategy of playing the game, you play the game, you win the game.
It's also a little boring sometimes.
Extremely boring. Yeah, extremely boring. But, and also, not as relevant to combat as I would like, you know. But you know, I always thought that Tyron Woodley was too much of a passive fighter, and there has to be something to be said for being aggressive for street relevance, you know. But anyway, that's how I saw the fight.
What if they put like swords in the ring?
You know, you said that another podcast.
I have violent tendencies, apparently.
You know, put different weapons and you can grab whatever weapon.
Oh, yeah. Cage match.
Yeah.
Chainsaw. Get a ladder and everything. We're mixing WWE in here. And Gladiator and UFC all mixed together. We got something.
You know, this is way back when, but there used to be, they used to call it the Martial Arts Olympics. And what would happen is you'd fight, this is in Japan, you'd fight one round, knockdown karate, which is no punching to the face, but you can punch and kick the body as hard as you want. The next round is kickboxing. Right? And so you kickboxing, punch, kick, basically kickboxing. And the round after that is MMA. So you had like different, each round was like a different sport.
Yeah.
So you had to win the first round, and the second round, and those rules in the third round. So each round was a different
It's like
sport.
the opposite of mixed martial arts.
Yeah. Well, the last round was
Segregated
mixed
martial arts.
Yeah, right. But each round was like a different, sport.
That's
and it's kind of interesting, concept.
You did like those back alley basement fights back in the day, right?
I never fought a back alley, but yes, I did some of those. Unsanctioned
basement bars fights.
Yeah, I was never in a bar, but I did fight in a restaurant. Yeah. But I guess it was kind of like a bar too.
You gotta have fun stories or something.
Yeah,
we have never heard any of those stories.
I'm afraid
you're not going to tell the statute of limitations is expired by now.
Well, I'll tell you.
Change the name to protect the innocent.
Yeah, I'll tell you. On the first, I went and we talked about it in my last podcast. Our last podcast it was called the Underground Fight League, and in New York, we were not sure what the legal status of MMA or Vale Tudo. Back then, we really fought in Vale Tudo rules. We weren't sure of the status. We weren't sure if what we're doing was legal or illegal. So first it was legal, and then they passed this law, and it turned out that it was absolutely legal. But according to a guy named Jim Genia, who's a lawyer, and he did some due diligence, and he said, no, legally, as long as we don't like sell alcohol, we don't give monetary gain to the fighter, and all these other things, right? But still, we weren't sure. So, basically it was by invitation, and you just met, and it was really a gathering of martial artists, and it was very pure. And it was wonderful because like everybody went there, was very, very respectful. You never had any kind of like Conor McGregor antics. You never had trash talking. I mean, a little like, male rivalry kind of stuff, but like we would have with any sports game, but it was complete respect at the end and incredibly hard fight. And the guy who's the matchmaker at the time, did a very good job with safety because, we none of us wanted to go to jail. But, then, and I also fought, in other places which were not so kosher. It was just part of what we did in New York at that time. And in that underground, came out of that. Frankie Edgar came out of there. And a lot of fighters who later became famous came out of that underground. It was just a place where New Yorkers cut their teeth before they went to New Jersey and fought. Basically, there was an amateur league in New Jersey, but basically if you were from New York, you kind of cut your teeth on that and you went pro in New Jersey. But and even New Jersey was hard to get fights. So a lot of people just stayed in New York and just fought in New York. And there was no money anyway. Like, what is pro? Pro meant like $10. So it was like, we'll just fight in New York and just fight people in New York. And that was it. And that's was for me a way to test my skills. And, it was not the current rules. First of all, like I said, it was a 1 15-minute round and then we'd have a break and one 10-minute round after that. I never went past the first round. And then, we would always sit back and each match would be kind of different, what rules that people would agree on. And this is true back in the day in the UFC, even though everything was allowed, like hair pulling, you could pull someone's hair in the UFC for sure. So, but there was two guys. I believe it was Guy Metzger and one other guy. I think it was Guy Metzger, but they had long ponytails and they, in the back room, agreed not to pull each other's hair. So, what would happen is the referees, would sit and say, well, what rules do you guys want? And each fight would be slightly different depending on the fight. For me, I said everything's in except eye gouging and biting. That was it. Everything's in except headbutts, groin shots, everything. That was my rule. But then some people would disagree and say, no, I would prefer there's no groin shots. And I said, okay. And almost always those guys would still try to punch you in the groin. Or they try to bite you. It's like, oh, you just said you weren't going to do that, but now you're doing it. Yeah. But I never broke the rules. Whatever they agreed to, I always stayed on that.
Good boy.
Yeah.
In my head, I have like this picture of like you're going into like some seedy back alley, knocking on the door with like giving a password, taking you down 2 flights of stairs.
There definitely was a password.
Oh, yeah? What was the password?
I don't know. I didn't have to do it because I was a fighter, right? But but for the people who came, you had to know You had to ask for someone. I don't think it was like, hey.
It's like Eyes Wide Shut with less sex.
No sex. No sex at all.
Okay.
There's fighting. And then I remember after the fight, a lot of times I fought in September. After the fight, I would go to the San Gennaro Festival and eat the crap. I would just eat like crazy.
Oh, so it was uptown.
No. The San Gennaro Festival is downtown.
I thought it was in the Bronx.
No, the San Gennaro Festival is in Little Italy.
Oh.
So it's, right, Little Italy. They might have one in the Bronx too. I don't know. But the one that I'm familiar with, the one I'm familiar with is in Little Italy.
Okay.
So I fought in the Midtown area, Chelsea area, and then we went downtown. That was a lot of fun.
It's now a Sbarro, I think, where you used to fight. Starbucks upstairs.
Starbucks, yeah.
You go in there and I have blood on that wall.
No, it's it's funny, but actually, that happened to me in Japan. So not a fight, but I was training at a place in Japan, and they tore down. And at that place, I trained so hard. We were just killing each other, and it was this old place, and also the place I lived too. But they tore it down and they built up this higher. So I'm like, man, somewhere in that concrete, my blood is there. My blood is in that concrete somewhere. It's this like nice, beautiful like glass building now. And the other day before that, it was this like, this really old gym with tatami mats, like the straw mats, the old, the scene in The Matrix where he's teaching Neo.
Dojo.
Yeah. The dojo. Like it wasn't like, that's more Chinese style, but the mats they have in that, those straw mats, that's what kind of mats we train on in Japan. And, they really smell like straw, especially when your nose is being smoshed into them. You're like, wow, it's a straw smell. Very interesting. And then your blood bleeds into them and it gets absorbed into the straw for some reason. And then you can see the straw is just very good at somehow like absorbing and retaining moisture somehow, right? So no matter how much you sweat on it or whatever, nothing really happens. It absorbs it and then it dissipates it, but the straw is very like antimicrobial or something. So,
wow.
But it has this smell that's unmistakable. It's this like dojo straw smell. And, I remember one time I'd run that place. I got thrown really hard. Boom. And my head. And then a guy's smashing my head to the floor with his elbow. And I'm like, my nose is bleeding into the straw. And I'm like, and all I can think about is how this like, the straw smells. I'm like, there's a little musk there. I don't know. Is this my blood that I don't know. It's a weird thing.
Who bled here yesterday?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Who bled here yesterday?
It smells like Steve.
Yeah, exactly. Steve. More like Tuttle. Oh. But yeah, it was a funny thing that goes through your head when you're getting your ass kicked.
Wow.
Why am I doing this?
That's the name of your book.
Yeah. There's a very funny martial arts book. I don't even know if it's still in print, but it's about an Aikido training in Japan. It's called Angry White Pajamas. And the gis that people wear, and they come and screaming at each other. And it's about training this place called the Yoshinkan. And I lived with some guys who train there. They have this a program where people from around the world go to Japan and they live in Japan and they train there for a year. And they train 6 hours a day, 6 days a week or 5 days a week, and for an entire year. And then you get kind of certified to like open up your own academy or something. And so I lived with a bunch of those guys when I was in Japan, and we had some fun experiences. Like it was a house of all foreigners living for martial arts in Japan. The way it works in Japan is, at least when I was there, like if you wanted to get an apartment, you had to have a lot of money because you had to make this security payment, which is like 6 months rent. And then you had to have like a deposit, this thing called key money, which is basically like this weird bribe and deposit. So you have to have like, $10,000. And transient populations like foreigners, you don't have $10,000 to just drop on apartments. So they'd have these like short-term rental places and they'd be pretty much filled with foreigners and stuff like that. And so this was like a martial art house. So it was a couple of Japanese guys who were students and they were from outside of Tokyo. They're studying at a very prestigious university in Tokyo called Waseda. And then it was those three guys. And then it was us, all these martial artists, like 12 martial artists who came to Japan to train. Well, not 12, it was less than 12. I forgot how many it was. And people, one karate guy, myself, and a few Aikido guys. And it was cool. It was really cool.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was some adventures in Japan.
I bet.
Yeah.
Look for the book.
No, maybe someday.
You should write a book.
Yeah.
You got a lot of things to say.
I'm writing a book, but it's more like technical and, it's like, this is why this works and stuff like that.
All right.
But yeah, no, I mean, I have a lot of funny stories. Yeah.
There'll be a lot of puns in that book?
Yeah, they would have to be.
That has
Yeah,
to be.
but it's a really, really funny story. This when we were training at that place in Japan, it was me and another karate guy, and we set up our own little dojo on the roof of the place.
Oh my god!
Except
that
we
sounds scary.
forgot, that you can actually fall off the roof.
Yeah, I forgot. Gravity.
So we're striking, we go pop, 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 and he's a karate guy, and there was a lot of movement because, and if you know, like a lot of karate guys, they're movement based outfighters. So I'm moving, and then thank God I had my gi on because the guy I moved backwards, and the guy grabbed my gi, and I'm like, whoa, and I was about to fall off the 3 stories
God.
onto the concrete.
Wow.
That would have been bad. Yeah, you got to watch where you're going.
Careful when you're training on a roof.
Yeah.
Let's go through some questions. If you have any, you want to go through some questions real quick?
I would love that.
Right. Let's see. We got a whole bunch of listener questions that have come over in the last couple weeks. Let's start with, how about lightsabers? If I train to be the next Jedi warrior, will that eventually translate into actual sword fighting?
Oh, why? Okay, so that's I don't even know how to answer this question.
Just say no.
No. You know what? Okay, so this is actually interesting. So, let's talk the original Star Wars trilogy, right? So the style that the Obi-Wan Kenobi and there is a two-handed sword style, which is
Samurais, right?
yeah, based on the Japanese kendo styles. Yeah, the styles that eventually became kendo, which is the Japanese sword fighting. It is, was originally known as kenjutsu, but they're two-handed saber styles, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're definitely drawing on that tradition for that. So it looked as if, I'm not a sword guy, but it looked as if there's some reality to that. That being said, then the later movies, they make it much more cinematic and more Western, especially the more movies that the later character, he has the
double one?
Kylo Ren, right? He shoots on the side. So, and his style is more like acrobatic Western style. Yeah. And but he's they're drawing from, there's actually a really interesting exhibit at the Met recently. It was the armor of Maximilian V. And Maximilian was the emperor, one of the Holy Roman emperors in Germany. And, he has this massive collection of armor, and they're talking about, these contests. They would have these tournaments where it would be like jousting and things like that. But they also have the melee, and which was like one-on-one sword fighting. Like I told you there was that show where they do MMA but they wear armor, and it's really cool. Yeah. And it's the same thing. That was historically what they did. And so there's a whole video and a recreation of how the melee worked. And sometimes, you'd have more because you're wearing heavy armor. The swords were more battering than slicing, So Kylo Ren's style, you can see, is more, it's very cinematic, but it's more Western in that he's like battering people with it. So, and it's less, I don't say less technical, but it's more about brute force than slashing and cutting, cause you're wearing like an inch of plate steel. You're probably not gonna cut the guy's arm off, but you might give him a fracture, his shoulder joint breaks or his elbow fracture, something like that from the trauma. So, it gets a larger question. And I had a student come in, does cinematic training, not just swords, but does cinematic training, like Jackie Chan style training, make you how much of that translates to real world combat? And that's a really good question. So put away swords, put away this. I would say proprioception is always a good base, meaning if you are a great acrobat, a great athlete, you can put your what's her name? She's in the new Star Trek TV show, but she's in a lot of action movies from Asia. She was in 007, Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah. Crouching Tiger, right?
Yeah, Crouching Tiger, right, exactly right. So she has been doing cinematic martial arts since she was a kid. She's amazing. That girl can't fight. She cannot fight. But if you actually put her on she cannot fight. She cannot fight. Zero. This woman, even at her prime, could not defend herself from an assault. Period. You can just see it. But she's also an incredible athlete, like a ballerina or something like that. So if you actually put her into a real martial arts training program, she would get it much faster than a regular person. So the same thing is true. Like I have a student, and he's a wonderful student, and he comes from he's trained as a ballet dancer, and he picks up so quickly, and he's so coachable. Now ballet will not help you in a fight. You cannot ballet, plie away, right? It cannot happen. But understanding your body as an instrument is very, very essential. Is a very essential ingredient for martial arts success. So if I want to punch correctly, I have to have body control, which is a fancy way to say that is proprioception. If you don't have body control, it's very, very hard to get good at martial arts. So these people have these base training paradigms. One of the best ones is acrobatics and gymnastics. And people always ask me, like, what is the first martial art you're going to put your kid in? Jiu-jitsu, right? And I said, no, absolutely. First of all, that brings up a lot of pressure and things like that. But I'd say the first thing I'm going to put him in is like gymnastics and what they did with Lomachenko, who's one of the best boxers around right now. His dad for 5 years put him in dance class just to let him understand how to use his feet as well as he uses his hands. So Lomachenko is considered the absolute god of footwork now. But his dad gave him 5 years as a kid learning dance, like salsa and all this. Yeah. And so the question is, how much cinematic training will help you in a real fight? Pretty much not much at all. But those base understandings of how to use your body, that is a great place to start where we can make the journey faster. And, like traditional martial arts has a lot of things like katas and stuff like that, performances. And again, this is the same thing. Learning kata will not help you fight. Practicing kata will not help you fight. But what it can do is teach you how to move your body a little bit better sometimes. And then when you actually learn to fight, you can pick it up faster.
So is the Karate Kid bullshit? Learning to wash the car and paint the fence, is that not going to help?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. It is bullshit, but it's not. So it is and it isn't. Like learning detail orientation. So this is a great question. That sounds like you're saying you're kind of making a funny question, but it's actually a great question. So
I did it.
So the question is like, for people who didn't see Karate Kids, he has Daniel San washing the fence, and he's doing these circular motions, and then he has him, paint the fence where he's up and down and then wash the car. And he's doing all these motions, which are unconsciously training him in blocking techniques, right? Okay. Yes, that's bullshit. That is bullshit because you have to have the timing of another human being. What Matt Thornton calls aliveness. If someone is not punching you, and you're not understanding how to react to that energy and use that move is useless. So there's always a dialogue between you and another human being in combat. And one of the most important things is to train the understanding of how to react to that person's energy, So you come at me with a headbutt, and I notice your headbutt. I have the timing. I know what the timing is between your head and my fist, or your head and my elbow. So I know that timing because I've practiced it so many times before. So just practicing in the air is bullshit. You will never get good practicing the air. But that being said, before you do all that timing and aliveness, you have to know your body. And I get a lot of students right now who are extraordinarily uncoordinated because it's like a little bit of, I think, helicopter parenting. They're playing video games all the time. The parents are like, don't go outside. So kids don't play the way they used to. It's just a fact. So they're not used to using their bodies as well as they used. So, I had this one guy come in, this was a couple days ago, and he's like, very interested in being a fighter and all that. And it's a great guy. And in unidirectional movement, just running straight, he can do that. But anything more complicated than that was extremely hard for him. And there's certain parts of his body that he had some control over because he did some sports, but not much. But everything else was very difficult. So what I find myself doing is before we're doing combat, or as we're learning combat, we're learning skills of body control. And that is extremely important for defense, right? Like this guy punches you, you slip your head out of the way, pump. That timing in fighting is important, especially striking. So you got to put your head right there, right at that moment. Otherwise you get hit. And if you can't do that in a millisecond, you're shit out of luck. Mm-hmm. So understanding your body is very important. And so people say, how do you do that? Well, this is going to sound like I'm a proponent for jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu is this art that gets you better at that. Gets you better at body control because it's like you're moving like a cat. You're spinning around all the things. So you get this little bit better of an internal gyroscope. And it makes you understand your body better so that when you come to the striking arts or something like that, you can actually learn them faster because you're not so uncoordinated. And striking arts are very, very unforgiving of people who have lack of coordination. So jiu-jitsu is this great art where it can develop your coordination. But that's what I say is if you're starting out as a kid, have your kid do gymnastics, have your kid do dance, and have your kid do parkour. And just play. Just play. There's lots of stuff play. Mm-hmm. And don't talk about martial arts for a while. Let him develop a whole sense of his body, using his body and then I'd say I'd put my kid in just a good judo or wrestling program and get him used to being thrown upside down a lot, rolling around and being thrown in a combative sense. And then as that goes further on, he can work the striking, but and of course I put submissions in there somewhere as well, but
and then lightsaber classes,
and then
learn to use the force. Yeah. That's a cheat code.
It's a cheat code.
Yeah.
So that was that. Did I turn that question into something more?
You grabbed the gem out of the poop.
Well, thank you.
But I still think you need an answer though, dude. Lightsaber.
No, but I did answer.
But I feel like I would learn to like if I can hold a sword and move it around like a lightsaber, that's still going to do better. That's better than nothing.
Okay, so that's another good question.
Uh-oh.
Okay, that's a really good question. I get this all the time. So there's some martial arts that suck. Really, 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 really suck. Their training paradigms. There's some martial arts that actually the martial art is good, but it's generally taught poorly or taught in what we call McDojo context, where you're not really learning how to fight. You're just kind of taught badly, right? So the question is, isn't that training better than nothing? And the answer is absolutely not. Nothing is better. Nothing is better because you have your own internal operating system. So bad training is not better than no training. No training is better than bad training. So what I'm saying is you have your own natural way of moving. It is the Matt Peters way of moving, right? And that's the way you move. Now, what I'm going to do as a martial artist is adjust that to the way a good MMA fighter moves. So some of those things that you do when you move, that would be very good for this. But here is where if you move like that, you'll actually sprain your ankle or you'll fall because you're off balance or you're here. Oh, okay. We're used to dealing with this because you're 6 feet 2, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", sorry. From down here, everybody looks the same. Yeah, 6'4", so you're used to doing this, but wow, when you go down here, you have to do this. And the safety, it's efficiency, it's this. So I have to change the way you move and teach you how to move much more efficiently. Mm-hmm. Now, so basically, I'm taking away your operating system and I'm putting a new operating system. Now, all martial arts kind of do that.
OS.
Right, the Jiu-Jitsu OS, MMA OS, right. And then, there's a little Renee in there too of my theories, right? But there's that point where the operating system is downloading. And to download that operating system, it actually is not instantaneous. It takes a long time of constant moving your body. Mm-hmm. And people get really annoyed with this. So I had a student message me and he's like, Renee, why are we doing the same thing over and over again? And my quick answer is like, because you so fucking suck at it. I didn't say that. I was more polite. But I'm like, because you don't have that movement in your unconscious memory yet. So you want to train so that you don't even have to think about these things anymore. You move this way. Because that takes time. So, but what do you do when you start martial arts? You've been 4 months in and then you get assaulted. Well, actually your OSs are warring with each other. So you have the old way of moving and the new way of moving. And sometimes that leads to like brain freeze, brain short circuit. Yeah. And you actually don't know what to do. Now, good athletes or people who are committed can generally get through that, particularly if there's a good sparring element. They can kind of get through that moment, but a lot of students, particularly people who are a little less coordinated, they have that moment where they just do nothing because their brains are confused. Do I do this new pattern or do the old pattern? And they get confused and they don't do anything. They just freeze. And especially if they're put in situations they've never been put in before. So they just freeze. Because the brain is like, do I move this way or do I move that way? I don't know because I'm not trained yet. So if you're not taking your training seriously, if you're being taught by someone bad, or if you're being taught by a bad martial art, like there's some arts that are very combatively oriented and not technical, and I'm not really a fan of them at all. at least the way they're taught, anyway, whatever. But it's another story. But I have to erase all these bad patterns. And I'm like, don't explode. Don't go barbarian. Don't go complete berserker. Let's stop and think and see how we can do this. And I have to retrain them. So people who come from, and I'll just say it, people who come from the Krav Maga, people who come from the Krav Maga background are very hard for me to teach how to fight correctly. Because they're like, and I'm not saying Krav Maga on everywhere is a bad martial art, because I only can talk about my personal experience here in New York and in LA and with some Krav Maga instructors that I've met and taught. And generally speaking, and not just Krav Maga, but what we call military combatives. They base it on aggression. We have one of the episodes where we talked about Yoel Romero and combatives. But basically it's like aggression, no technique, go berserker, right? Try to survive. Okay. So basically there's so many things wrong with this approach, and you've done it so much that it's so hard for me to train you out of that approach that you're starting like 8 steps back. So it's like some of these people come to me. I'm like, I actually can't help you anymore. You're too ruined. I had to send a student away. He's like, you're too, what we call is they develop what we call a flinch response. So it's like this, you flinch. And then they just spaz out. And they've been taught to use that spazzy energy as part of their defense. But technical fighting, you can't spaz out. That's the exact opposite of what you want to do technically. But I'm like, you're such a spaz. You're such a fucking spaz. You've been spazzing out for the last 5 years. I can't fucking help you because you're just terrible. So I had this one guy, and he also had all these injuries from the Krav Maga training, and he's super spastic. No control, no body awareness. I'm like, dude, I can't help you. Just, I don't know, carry gun. You can't fight. You're never going to learn how to fight. Just never. God. He's a little bit older, highly uncoordinated, already very seriously injured from his Krav Maga training, and incredibly spastic and zero coachability because he's never actually been coached properly. So he just spazzes out. He just goes, I'll go street on you, right? I don't know. Not a bad guy, but I was like, dude, I can't help you.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Maybe there's some teacher in the world that could, but I can't.
So before you download that Krav Maga training manual off YouTube, come see Radical MMA. Look, I have to say that I have done a vast, very, very vast and long-term study of martial arts. But that being said, my experience is limited. So actually there are some academies out there that maybe are very good. And there's actually a Krav Maga Academy in LA that's actually very good. So, but they integrate a lot more mixed martial art approaches, things like that. But the majority of my personal experience has been extraordinarily, negative from what I've seen here. And not something you'd ever want to do in an actual street fight. You're just not. It's just terrible. The way you explained that really made sense that is something better than nothing. It really is. You have to reteach somebody. You have to bring them back to zero because they could have done something that's really stupid. That
absolutely.
Really messed up the way they move and operate. So it really makes sense. So don't fuck it up.
Yeah, no, but it's funny because every martial artist who came from one single discipline has this a little bit. So for example, wrestlers, to not get pinned, will roll on their belly. And the first time they go to jiu-jitsu school, they'll roll on their belly and they get choked out. And so, but because they're wrestlers, which means they have a high level of athletic ability or athletic training in real life combative context, they can switch that off much more quickly. Yeah, they can adapt quickly because they're athletes, because they have proprioception, they have body control. They're like, oh, I did A, but I'm not going to do A anymore. I'm going to do B. But because their mind-body connection is very strong. And what happens when you do combative arts that are taught in that specific methodology? All you do is spastic. You don't think about what you're doing, and you just go, ah! And then you can't really turn off because you're not actually, because you're fighting from your more limbic system orientation, which is your fight or flight reflex, not the technical orientation, which in terms of like neurobiology is in your prefrontal cortex, your forward brain. Here. So when you learn technique, it's the front part of your brain. When you spaz out, it's the back part of your brain. It's like near the amygdala. So you can't actually access technique because you're in the wrong part of your brain. That's true. That is absolutely neurologically, anybody who studies brain science.
Google it. It's true.
Yeah. Panic and then try to add 2 + 2. No, I mean, get in a complete panic situation and go, what's 11 times 13? You can't actually do it. Yeah, you can't, exactly. So
interesting.
Striking at a high level grappling at a high level, knife defense at a high level is all in the frontal brain because these are technical arts, right? Now, and there's a connection between that frontal brain and your fingers and toes. And the more understanding you have, your frontal brain has of your body in space, the better a combat athlete you will. Better athlete. Forget about combat. The better. That's what a good athlete is. And you better be a good athlete. You know, this is what I disagree about Chinese martial arts. You know, they're like, oh, you know, you don't actually have to lift weights. You don't have to do this. You just have to do this. And man, your body is a tool. Using that tool well is important for anything. And if you don't teach your student how to use that tool well, it doesn't matter what technique they're studying. It doesn't matter. So, you know, you have to understand how to use that tool well. And there's some type of training methodologies that degrade your natural understanding of your body. And I believe, and I've seen it over and over again, that what the combative training that I've seen, you know, not everywhere, because there's some that are good, I'm sure. I've not seen it, but I'm sure that now I've seen a couple here and there, but very rare. But the combatives type Krav Maga training that I've seen degrades your natural understanding of your body. And you know, you're going to tell me this, like, you know, 104-pound girl is going to do that. That's that, you know, like face palm punch this way when she can't even generate force. She has no idea how to generate force. She has no speed or reaction. Like, you're smoking crack. That's not going to fucking happen. And it's the disservice and it's completely irresponsible, which is why, like, you know, I had a person come to my academy and he wanted to train with me. And I said, look, you're training people and charging $250 an hour and you're training them crap. You cannot train here because until you stop teaching people, because what you're doing is a disservice and you're a charlatan and you're just taking people's money and giving them crap. So I cannot be involved with you. And, so like that, you know, you know, if people are doing it for fun, you can do anything you want for fun. But if you're actually telling someone, hey, this will help save your life, that's false advertising. That won't save your life. That'll get you killed. That will get you killed. And there's this Israeli combatives instructor, and he's actually really, really good. His name's Adin Yavik. He lives in South Africa, and I'm actually a fan of what he does. And you know, I saw him. I thought he was Krav Maga at the beginning, and I'm like, oh wow, this is actually a Krav Maga guy that's really freaking good. And then he goes, at the end of the video, he goes, yeah, this is Krav Maga guys suck. And I'm like, no, but that's not true. You know, like, I cannot say all martial arts. I cannot say that's not fair. There are a lot of martial arts doing a lot of things. I'm talking about my personal experience and what I've seen instruction, but I've seen a lot of poor, and the same with not just Krav Maga, but RBSD, which is reality-based self-defense, the military line combatives that the U.S. Army used to do, all based on the Fairbairn combative system, which is like a 1905 kind of system. They're all based on the same thing, and they all suck. They just are not good. And the methodology teaching, which developed in 1905, is not good. So let's move past that. You know, that's not a good system. So, you know, first of all, you're not developing your athletic potential because you're ruining that mind-body connection. And the second, the techniques are not evolved. So nothing is better than that.
Yeah. Well, I'm way ahead of everybody else. I've done nothing. You got a lot of questions that were answered in that. We had one question and branched off into 10 different things, which was great.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. We're wrapping up today, but next week we're going to be back and we're going to celebrate the wins of G and Uric, who are fighting on Friday, February 29th.
Yes. Saturday.
February
29th. And you can watch it on fight.tv, FITE.tv, and it's a $14 pay-per-view. And they're both fighting for the title. G's fighting for the 185 pro title, and Uric Anderson's fighting for the 145
Make your bets.
Amateur title. And,
put all your money on G and Uric.
Yeah, you know, but I actually, look, this sounds funny, but I hope they're not easy fights. I don't think they will be because the opponents are very good, but I never want easy fights. That sounds weird, right? But you make your way. This is my martial philosophy, and it's the philosophy of my guys, that you cut your teeth, you make your way as a martial artist. You go forward by being tested over and over again, put in the fire. If you're not put in the fire, if you're not taken to the edge and forced to crawl your way back, then what's the fucking point? You know, let's both, I hope they both get in there and they push each other to the edge. And I have nothing but respect for both the opponents. They're amazing, amazing opponents. So I'm super excited, particularly Pat Casey. He's, you know, fought in Bellator many times. Amazing person, really nice guy, and really great martial artist. And, they're gonna push each other to the edge, and you're gonna see some fireworks. Which is like we didn't talk about it, but the Paul Felder Dan Hooker fight this weekend was again that pushing two martial arts pushing each other to the edge. And for me, when I fought underground here in New York, that was our goal. And I like to see that where it's two people where they get something sublime, something, like it's like any high level sports where you see some sort of really positive human quality, endurance, massive amount of guts and heart and determination. And that's really martial arts. So I think that's what's going to happen this weekend.
And we'll see.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wish them well and wish them luck. I know you trained them well.
I hope so.
We'll see how it turns out.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye.